Audio testing, 1, 2, 3. Lights on, camera rolling, and action.
Welcome to the Scaling Creator Podcast, the one-stop shop that explores problems, solutions, and stories for business-minded creators. I'm Soren Dickens.
And I'm Eriksen Dickens.
We'll be talking about everything from self-discovery, storytelling, leadership, marketing, sales, operations, and finance.
If you like a healthy dose of education mixed with a generous dash of insightful entertainment, prepare for your ears to be pleasured. Oh yeah.
Make sure to check us out at scalingcreator.com and also join our free Discord community.
Scaling Creator launching in 3, 2, 1.
The following content is not intended for all listeners, but we strongly encourage all listeners to listen regardless.
What's up, man?
What's up with Epic Joan Tours? Tell me about it.
It's been a lot of fun. I've done, it's been rocky rides, and not rocky in a bad way, but since I graduated college, quite a few different experiences with work, and kind of stumbled upon this idea of drones and drone tours. And what started as just a little idea and working with a guy I found online, it's kind of turned into an actual company now. We're traveling across the country, shooting for a variety of different types of clients, getting to be in some of the coolest and most expensive real estate in the world. It's been a lot of fun. Now we have a team and starting to grow pretty fast.
That's pretty sweet. And who's this guy over here?
So this is Zach. He is a lot of
I've been told that he likes to be on camera, so
Zach's a lot of different things to me. First and foremost, he's definitely my best friend. We went to college together, swam the same events in college, swam, every day, same practice next to each other, racing, competing, hanging out. After I graduated, he in Epic Drone Tours became a thing. He started working with me about 6 months in, I would say, liked what we were doing and wanted to help out. A year and a half later, he's now my right-hand man. He's our COO, also my roommate. So friend, roommate, business partner, all the fun stuff.
I definitely want to talk about living together and working together later, but we'll tap back into that because done that, definitely didn't have a good experience, but it seems to be working for you guys. So I want to hear what you guys have to say about that.
Well, we're here and we don't hate each other. So
you don't hate each other.
It must be working out somewhat.
Yeah. All right. Well, you'll have to tell us some more. So where are you from, Jack? And how did you get into photo, film, this creator space? Where did this all start?
My dad was in the military, so we bounced around a little bit as a kid. So I was born up in Northern California in Monterey, and then moved to Maryland and lived there until I was 6, and then moved to San Diego, which is where I've been since I was 6 years old. So pretty much the entirety of my life that I remember. How I got into the creative world, my dad was deployed when I was 2007, so I was 10 years old. He was going to be gone for about a year. The way that I sort of communicated with him while he was gone had this, what I thought at the time was a super high-tech camera as a little 10-year-old, but it's just a little point and shoot. I want to say each day, but at least a couple times a week, I would, take a picture or take a video of whatever I was doing, kind of created this archive of stuff that I was working on or I was doing, things I was playing with. I was 10, so I wasn't doing advanced stuff, but whatever I was doing, so I was just kind of documenting what I was doing while he was gone, and that was my way of communicating with him for a year while he was in Iraq. That kind of blossomed into my love for all things that have to do with cameras.
Gotcha. So was it the camera as the technology, or was it more the storytelling and the way you were able to communicate with him that got you into this creative world?
Ability to tell a story. Because we got to talk to him on the phone a little bit, but that was mostly he was talking to my mom. It was finding a way to replace the normal way that you communicate with your dad as a kid at home. Tell him about your day. How was school? How was soccer practice, baseball, whatever it was. Yeah, it was learning how to take that communication and put it into a story, into a piece of media that somebody then can go watch a year later and be able to say, oh, that's really cool that you were doing this at that time. As far as the actual technology of it, yeah, that was cool. And I learned how to do that. But as a 10-year-old, I definitely wasn't making high quality pieces of content. So that was secondary. It was the foundation of being able to, of getting the interest of wanting to document things that are happening in my life and with other people's lives around me. So that led into then my siblings and I made a lot of home videos. And so my sister was a big fan of So You Think You Can Dance and America's Got Talent. And so we'd get all of our friends together, would come over and we'd recreate that. I was filming it. And, some of our friends would be the judge on the couch. And my sister and her friends would come in and do dances and weird talents and acts. And they'd critique each other, just like those shows. That was the first movies that I was making. I did that for all through elementary, middle school, and then high school, which is when I finally did it on a professional scale.
How do you feel like that experience where you were making videos, communicating with your dad overseas, how did that influence who you are today in the way that you got your siblings together. You kind of like coordinated everything, I'm assuming, and you guys created these like documentation pieces and then sent that over to them. How do you feel like that influenced who you are today as a CEO or as a leader? When you were a kid, did you feel like you like had that leadership? Because you have an older sister, right?
2 older siblings and 1 younger brother.
And were you kind of like the leader of behind putting these videos together?
I was leading the charge as the director, I guess.
Yeah.
They'd have the ideas and be the talent, and then I was the one putting them together. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, another similar thing, it wasn't media related, but my mom sold books, had a column of where she'd write and review kids' books. And so we'd get boxes and boxes of books. There were so many cardboard boxes stacked up in our garage that we made a little fort out of it. We pretended it was like the White House, but it was called the Red House. And so I took paint and painted all the cardboard boxes red. And we literally had this whole organization with my siblings and all of my friends. And so we had a president. That was me. We had a VP, we had a treasurer, we had all these. So we had this whole, and I still have the notes today of like who did what everybody's roles were. Like my best friend Mattia at the time was the VP, and I'd be sitting up there in the house, and we'd be talking about how we were gonna be able to go outside and get a certain kind of rock that looked cool. And that was like our mission for the day. Just wacky stuff like that. But I guess I haven't thought of that in years, and I just did when you mentioned that. But I guess that's another example of like getting people together, which, today I think that one of the best parts, at least about Epic Drone Tours, is the group of people that we have combined together with different skill sets. We're all very different people, but we combine so far at least to make some pretty cool products.
Sounds
really
like
good synergy.
Creativity was kind of like instilled at a really young age.
Yeah.
Your mom was creative, it sounded like.
Yeah. I grew up in a very eccentric house, I would call it. Not very traditional. Both my parents kind of rebelled, for lack of better words, from the like traditional sense of family. So my dad grew up in a really religious household. We were not religious growing up very much. The both of them together were very, we grew up, we did normal like family things and stuff, but we didn't go to church. We didn't do things that most of my friends did. And so they were very creative people. So we just basically were allowed to do whatever we thought was fun. And so, which is why we were allowed to go take over the garage and create our White House. Or when I was, I think like 8, our dining room at my house became entirely filled with just it was called Jack's office. So I had a typewriter, I had a filing cabinet, I had like my little desk where I would sit and draw and write. And that was what it was used for. So we didn't really have a dining room anymore after that. It was Jack's office. So them allowing us to kind of have that creative expression, I think, is the reason that kind of became who I am now. And if that was stifled and I wasn't allowed to do that, and that might not have ever formed in me.
100%. What would you say to people who are, going to be parenting the next generation? The way you were raised, it created you who you are today, CEO of Epic Drone Tours. How would you say that your parenting, contributed to who you are today with their enablement of your creativity? Like, and how important is that?
I think having a good balance between discipline and then like freedom of expression. So my mom is the creative one, not that my dad's not, sorry. But yeah, he's where the leadership, the discipline, where I learned that side of it. But he was also very loving. Like he, no matter what, was in full support of everything we were doing all the time. And then my mom is where the creativity, the more of just, being able to go paint this wall because it's a piece of art. Most people wouldn't let their kids take over an entire dining room for themselves, which thank you, Mom. But yeah, so I think the dynamic between the two of those really fostered both a really good work ethic. I was a swimmer growing up since I was 7 years old. Swam 4 hours a day in a pool, staring at a black line for my whole life growing up. And I think that was from my mom. So my mom's a swimmer. Days that we wouldn't want to go swim or we were tired, whatever. She's like, nope, you're going to practice. It's good for you. That is where I got my drive from, and my drive and my discipline to be able to like have a tangible goal and go after it is from that swimming and really learning that like, yeah, things are going to be hard in life. Nothing is worth it. That's not hard.
So that whole concept of I stared at a black line for 4 hours a day is something that's really common with swimmers, right? Like we could all relate to that. I mean, Zach, you too, right? Like you swam your whole life. You know what it's like to just stare at that black line. How does that then translate to running a business or even staying focused and having that like dedication? I'm always trying to think about how can I relate my experience as a swimmer to the experience I'm having running a business. And every time I always think about the black line. Like it's almost like the roadmap to your success, right? Like you have to keep following the black line and you have to follow it as efficiently as possible with the least resistance or you're going to lose. Mm-hmm. So Give me your experience with that, or your analogies behind that.
At home, I had the creativity to explore just, whatever I was doing and learn the foundations of teamwork and, creation. But I think that all formulated in the pool. Like I got all my ideas that, another example, on our playground in elementary school, my friends and I made a restaurant, and I had a clicker that baseball umpires use to like count the balls and strikes. For whatever reason, I had that, and that was my way of counting money. So it was like each number on it was $10 we got for someone that bought a cheeseburger on our playground. So like kids would line up to come and like play this. It was basically like playing house, but at school. And I was a little restaurant owner running around and bossing people around. And like the way we made the food was by like churning up the sand in the sand pit. Like my friends would sit there. It was weird, like power dynamic, I think, but but everybody was into it, and we were a successful restaurant at school. But all of these different ideas for things I was doing came from my hours of being bored in the pool. Something I try to do today, even with life happening all the time. I try to really make sure I have time just to like do nothing, because that's when you have the most creativity. So I would be in that pool, and my mind would just be churning, even as a little 10-year-old, like, oh, I want to do this when I get home. I want to do this. Sometimes it would make me like be mad that I was in the pool. Like I'm very impatient and want to go home and do whatever, go draw this thing that I thought of or whatever. That black line created that space for me to go and come up with the ideas and kind of formulate my thoughts. In another sense, like you mentioned, as far as running a company or being a leader, it taught like focus, which is something I've learned a lot more in the last like year, is being able to realize that even when things get tough, halfway through swimming a mile, your body like wants to die and you want to get out of the pool. But, same thing in business. If you're going through a hard time, if you have a terrible quarter, terrible month, and a client yells at you and you feel like the whole world's falling down, you got to be able to realize like, no, it's fine. Just keep going. Swimming's the same way. You just got to keep going. Nobody's ever gotten out. Well, people have, but you can't get out if you're just tired or if you're hurting. No matter how much you want to get out of that pool and quit, you can't. And that's helped a lot in business. I feel that I think rubs off on other people around me, is that like I never really give up. I'm always trying to find a solution to something or see the positive side of every bad situation.
Yeah, that black line's it's like an incubator for your thoughts, right?
Yeah.
And like, during that incubation period, whether it was, 10 years old or even now, like 25, have you ever used that time for self-reflection and kind of like doing self-examination other than ideas that are like outside of you? Have you used that time to kind of look at, who Jack Spitser is and what direction you're going, and is it the right direction? And if so, like, what has that experience been like?
I haven't done much of that lately. I think in the past, I've learned more about myself and done more development as Jack Spitser in the past, 6 months to a year, 2 years than I have my entire life. And the funny thing is, I actually haven't been swimming a lot during that time. Lately, at least, that time has kind of been spent in the gym. That's when, Zach and I go work out together. And that's my time for thinking and lifting, getting huge.
How huge? How
Not
huge?
as big as him.
Not as big as Zach?
Not yet. He's on his way, though.
I'm getting stronger, which I just learned that's a thing, is actually being able to lift more weight the next week than the week before. I've never experienced that before. It's cool.
In swimming, you can't measure that, right?
No. And we
It's
never
tapered, and like
when you're swimming that much, it's hard to build that much muscle. But now it's like I get shocked. Like Zach knows, I get shocked when I can like add weight, and it's like, yeah, that's how it works, bro. And I was like, I've never all throughout college lift the same exact amount of weight all the time.
every time.
Pretty much. My ability to kind of what led to me being able to learn this kind of self-reflection, self-awareness was cultivated from being in the pool and having that, time to yourself. Like that's, no matter what I was doing, I was always with other people. I'm always surrounded by, chaos, and not chaos in the typical sense, but just something's always going on. But in the pool, that's all you're thinking about. And I think that helped me learn to be able to just narrow my focus on whatever it is at the time. So even if it wasn't in the pool, the last 6 months, that my ability to do that elsewhere came from that.
It's crazy what that black line will do. And just being in the pool, like
I love it.
all of your
it's great.
senses completely go out. You can't smell anything, well, until you take a breath. You can't really hear anything until you're like coming up. It's just like silent, and you can just go right into your own heads. But as a creative, I feel like I wish someone would have explained that to me as a child or as like a young adult.
When you were going through it?
When I was going through it as like, this is a very unique experience as a swimmer.
Right.
And I don't think anyone ever really explained that to me. And I feel like if there's one thing that, you know, us having this conversation and kind of like diving into it as creatives, what we can do is we can almost lead other young athletes or swimmers specifically who are going through the same thing, who might have that creative mindset, who are, you know, running through the scenarios that they're going to do when they go home, or like creating these narratives in their head while they're swimming their 1,500 yards or whatever, to encourage them to say, yeah, like this is a great time to think about. Obviously, you need to be thinking about your stroke. Obviously,
No,
you need to be
not in
thinking,
distance swimming.
not in distance swimming,
They
no.
try to tell you to do that. It doesn't work.
No. Yeah. It's like you need to be thinking about the next big feature film when you're swimming, or the next book.
If you think too much about, a big thing I learned, which everybody that swam with me and my coaches, everybody knows, it's like the more you think about your swimming, the slower you're going to go. I was, I believe, the most motivated, hardest working swimmer out there. And that motivation and that drive and that getting pumped up before a race, listening to music, getting hyped, awful for me. My best swims were when I was not thinking about swimming, when I was loose, relaxing, not listening to music, in the least like typical athletic sense of the word, was when I would swim the best, because I would turn my brain off and just do what I had trained 4 hours a day for my whole life to do, rather than this image of being hyped up and being an Olympic swimmer that I have in my head. And it's wild to learn that the dichotomy of, you know, the less I would care, the better I would do. And that's just because I would go into my training instead of thinking about every single detail.
It's kind of weird that you literally just told me that you find your creativity by not trying, right? Like by just checking out and chilling.
Yeah.
And when you chill out, you find your creativity. And then when you would just chill out and relax, you would swim good, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
I never thought of the correlation between those two. And
that's why we're sitting on this podcast. We're sitting on this podcast to talk about this type of stuff. Because, okay, growing up, my coach would always tell me, he would say, literally, you need to just chill out, smoke some weed, and drink a glass of red wine, and you'll swim faster. And I'm like, 15 years old, 14 years old.
Yeah.
Looking back on it, how do you feel like sitting back, chilling out, understanding your creative process and the development of your creative process by just relaxing, taking a step away, not forcing anything? Would you say that now, knowing that about your creative process, you would have been a better swimmer if you would have been able to like embody that younger?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think there's a scenario in which I was going to learn that sooner. I think it just had to happen naturally. Like I was always, the amount that I like looked up to other fast like Olympic swimmers and people I would see, I just always thought that was the way. You know, you see them behind the blocks on TV. They're, you know, the Phelps face from 2016. He's sitting there with the headphones in, jacked. Like I thought that's what you had to do. Somebody could have told me, you know, people always did tell me. They would always say, my coaches would try to be like, just relax, you're good. I wouldn't hear any of that. It's something you have to learn on your own. I wish I could have. I would have probably been a much better swimmer. That has translated a lot into my life post swimming and post college. I took a little bit of time off recently, not like fully, but I kind of stepped back a little bit from work in general. Did a lot of things for myself and a lot of thinking and just, kind of looking at things from far away. Now I'm kind of back into the grind, at least mentally. Like I'm back into that mindset, and I think I'm seeing it a lot differently. I have a lot of new ideas, things that we can work on and implement, a different feel. At least I think learned a lot more empathy for our team. I think that's going to help a lot long term, is being able to step back and think, just relax and not always worry and feel like you have to be grinding all the time. So that was my problem. I'd work so damn hard and I would never get anything from it. And I did the same thing in business at the beginning. I did everything for a year. That got us some good places, but the biggest leaps are going to come from being able to take a step back, reevaluate, make the right decisions versus making 100 decisions all at once.
Absolutely. Yeah, geez. It's crazy to think about how hindsight's always 20/20. You look back on what we could have done differently as athletes, and it could have been, I think we all could have been so much like, almost like better, but more so just like we would have found like more consistent success if we would have just 100%. Like chilled out. What about you, Zach? Like, tell me about your experience. Like, have you seen almost like less is more now being involved in a business? Like looking at how you swam, were you in that same scenario? Could you get hyped up and jacked and like still perform every time?
I had points where I could, be jacked and feed off the energy of teammates in that sense. But when I tried to do it myself by listening to like music or jumping around, that's usually when I would go and have a bad swim. Some of my best swims were, I couldn't even tell you what I was doing before. I just like, you get into that flow state. Mm-hmm. And it's like nothing even happens in your head. You just go, you trust your training, and that's how the great results come. I think we've kind of seen the same thing with us. It's when we're really pushing and pressing for something, that's when we're like not quite meeting our goal, and we're like, dang, we're trying so hard, but we're not quite there. And then we'll have been doing that for a long time, kind of take a step back, and then all of a sudden all these things are falling into our lap. Like we're getting responses, bookings. It's like when it rains, it pours is the kind of the slogan that Jack and I have. We press really hard for 3-4 weeks, get, a couple things going. And then all of a sudden everything, it's like, oh, that work did pay off. And if we were to just always focus on immediate results, there's just so much frustration when we do that. Both Jack and I kind of have worked on this, is taking that step back, realizing, okay, we've accomplished this, like good things are coming, just be patient. And that's usually when we start to see those results. It keeps both of us happier, and I think it's great for actually growing our business.
Isn't it crazy how you could look at our like business scenarios and look at our swim experience and how it's exactly the same?
100%.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And he's right about the like blacking out during a swim. Like you don't remember.
Yeah,
couldn't tell you what I was thinking or what was going on. It's weird. And the same thing in business is like the best days in business you have when you're just on your computer doing the best work. You don't remember. You're in flow state.
Right.
And same thing with meditation and mindfulness and awareness. It's like finding that state where your mind is just on autopilot.
Yeah, there'll be times where we go up to the office and we're like, oh yeah, we'll work an hour or two. And then we're just both there. We go in, and then all of a sudden we get the alarm. It's like, oh, it's 2:00. Like, where'd the time go? And we had no idea. And it's just, that's when I realized like, wow, we just worked. It wasn't like we were working. It just happened.
It's crazy how I
Some people hate their jobs,
describe how that works, but
we're
going to have to for sure get someone on this podcast who understands how that works on like a metaphysical level or whatever that is.
Neurobiology.
Seriously.
Can't even say that word.
It's crazy because I know that I used to be very grind. Like I would want to be, I never could race at a super high level, but I was able to train at a super high level. I always found myself overworking in business too. Like I thought that was okay. I think that there's this entrepreneur hype, guru energy that's out there online that makes you feel like you have to grind, constantly be working, constantly be doing personal development, constantly be like innovating, constantly be doing something. And I think it kind of ties into our previous conversation where, yes, it's always good to be moving forward, but it's like the speed and the consistency of moving forward can't be constant. Like you can't constantly be on. So how have your values and your approach to that changed over the years? Because you've either seen like it reject you, like you work so hard, you get sick. I've been there. I've literally worked so hard, stayed up so late that I ended up being so sick, got a cold or got the flu. And, during that experience, I was like, I have to slow down. What have you guys experienced with that?
The first, I don't know if we even mentioned it. So Epic Drone Tour started in January of 2021. So we're officially 2 years old. Yeah, that first entire year, I was bad at delegating. I did everything. Typical grind, hustle culture. That's what I saw, since I graduated college. I was like, that's what I'm going to go do. I'm a hard worker. I'm a
entrepreneur. Right?
Yeah. And that I feel like I had this kind of built up image that was cultivated from other people, but also like just of myself in my head that like, oh, I have to be this big hotshot business owner, CEO, whatever. And the way to do that is go work 80 hours a week and do that for the rest of your life. And one day you'll be rich and can go on a yacht, And that works at the beginning. I got a lot done pretty quick. You can only do that for so long. Eventually you have to learn how to, actually bring in a team of people smarter than you and realize you're not the one running the show. And so I got that part done, pretty good. I don't think I'm the best delegator, finding people that are better than me at doing certain things. And so that was step one, finding the team to be able to do the day-to-day things that that needed to take off my plate. But then I still had the typical, I was still in the grind mindset. So I would still be working for way too many hours each day doing busy work. And so that led to about 6 months ago, me realizing like this sucks. And it was, it started to hurt my relationships with everybody around me. Something just kind of hit me in it's the summer of this year where I was like, this is not the lifestyle that I want to live. I don't want to continue down this path of not being able to continue having that hurt the people around me.
How do you feel like the resilience that you guys like developed as athletes, as swimmers, like has given you the ability to pivot, take care of scenarios that are out of your control? as business owners? Like, how does that work?
I think that if there was one like quality of mine that is most valuable, I think it's my ability to have something bad happen and then literally not care. Like realize, no, it's not caring, but having the confidence to realize that we, one, it's going to work, or two, you're going to learn from it. So my scenarios that come to mind are when a client's upset about something we deliver. Literally, my favorite example to use is we've had a client who he's one of the top realtors in all of Los Angeles. He sells constant, $30 million houses. He told us, in my 30 years of being a realtor and a marketer, this is the worst piece of marketing content I've ever received for a house that I'm selling, verbatim. I do not see any, I don't have confidence in your ability to fix this. So let's just, settle up at a reasonable rate and move on. Didn't faze me. So, I responded, I understand. Thank you. We're going to try this again. I understand how you feel. And so we're going to try it again. And so one, went and revised it, but then also we went and reshot a couple shots that I felt like could have done better. And with the reshoot and a new edit, he came back and was like, wow, you guys have shocked me. I didn't think that was possible. I really did not see any ability for this to be saved. And now I actually kind of like it. So then he gave us some actual revisions to do to make it up to his liking. And he ended up being happy and called me and we talked for like an hour and he was just telling me how like myself and you and your ability to, work with your client and make sure that they're happy. And, most videographers we work with, when we tell them we don't like something, they're, very stuck up and they get pissed. You're the first one that's actually like been reasonable and had the willingness to make it work. And yeah, I think I learned all that from, like I said, swimming races like a mile where you literally, it's the worst situation you can possibly imagine where your brain or your body wants to shut down. You got to keep going and eventually you finish. I'm alive. None of those swims ever killed me as much as I wanted to die during them. And so I kind of transferred that into realizing that everything is solvable or you're going to learn. And I don't shy away from failure because you're just going to, no matter what, you're going to learn something.
Yeah, failure is kind of one of those things that we're all afraid of, but we need to accept because that's what's going to really like push us to the next level every time. Mm-hmm. Like, I learned the most through failure. I don't know about you guys, but dealing with clients like that and dealing with really good clients doesn't really teach you anything, right?
No. And it almost is bad because you get a little bit of too much of an ego. So you kind of need to be taken down a path a little bit by the bad ones to realize, like on this, that project specifically made me realize like, we need to be more involved from like project management. We were getting so many projects and delivering things left and right that kind of got lost in the cracks, like the review stage and making sure it was good before delivery. Each time something like that's happened, we've learned something and made our process better. Yeah, that doesn't happen if a client loves it and it's like, great, love that, on to the next.
Well, less so for me on the client success side of everything, but I do a lot of outreach. And so there's a whole lot of failure in a sense of I send hundreds of emails a day, send lots of DMs, lots of connection requests. And for the most part, there's a ghost, no response. And then there's the occasional, oh, no thanks, I don't want to see this, not interested. And then there's from now on, sometimes someone is, get me off your list, I'm not interested. And they'll say some harsh things and you have to kind of learn to not see that as a failure, but kind of as a success because you got the response. They at least took their time out of the day to respond to you. And it's not a personal thing, I never respond to emails that I think are spams, so they did take their time. They are kind of, they're at least reading what you have to say. So, at least our messages on the headlines are being read, and you kind of learn, okay, maybe we need to change this copy a little bit, change this phrase, add this example. And rather than just get defeated by, a hard no or all those things, if we just, in particular, Jack, if he just, when somebody said no, took that and that was it, the end, we would not be here today. Having that resilience, which I do think swimming absolutely helped both of us, well, all three of us. The amount of times where you're up at 5 a.m. in the water, training 4 hours a day, then you go to the meet and you just do terrible. But then next weekend or the next race, you're back there again. And that just, it's kind of teaches you something that while you're in the moment, that just seemed normal. I don't know if you guys feel the same, but for me, in swimming, it just seemed normal. If you did bad, you just get back up, do it again. And now looking back, it's like people that didn't have that kind of a structure or that kind of an atmosphere, they didn't develop that kind of resilience that I think, in particular swimming, just because how difficult it is, that kind of is like embedded in who we are. And I mean, I think all three of us take that forward in our business, and it can help us not be fazed by small little inconveniences or failures and help us to learn from them rather than get upset.
Nailed it for sure. 100% agree. I see that a lot with especially our generation, where our generation is a little bit, more soft to say the least.
Yeah.
When you see a swimmer, and if you're going to be recruiting someone or you're going to be working with someone, I always feel like when they were a swimmer or they are a swimmer, you're like, I'm going to vibe with this guy and they're going to understand me like I understand them.
Yeah.
So like what with you guys with Epic Drone Tours, what is it that you guys, from what you have experienced and with the messaging that you guys are putting out there, who is it that you guys want to work with, both on the client side, but also the team that you guys are building? How do you guys find that perfect dynamic, both on like the client side of the funnel and also on the team side?
Something that I like I pride us in having is like what I tell our clients on like demo calls is everybody that we have on the team is very creative in their own way. So on we have our shoot processes and shoot expectations that a client will expect. But when our drone pilots and our shooters are working on a project, they're going to show up and they are going to be able to tailor it to what they think is the best way to capture this space. So that might mean, changing a path of one of the flight lines by this much, or adding in this person, or, let's go this way instead. And I think that is what gives us the edge over everybody else. Our guys' abilities to kind of see the end result before they even create it. So that's what I look for. Along with that is then number 2, you got to be a hard worker. None of this is going to ever be easy. There's going to be a lot of hours going to have to be put in, but to balance that out, making sure that every single day we have fun. Just people that know how to have fun, work hard, and are creative. And so that's what we look for. Client side shifted quite a bit since the start. Started just working with realtors, residential shooting content for them to help sell their homes. And that was a pretty easy sell from the start, especially with our indoor drone tours. It's a very new technology. Nobody else was doing it at the time in our markets. It was easy to expand that way. But since then, we've expanded even more into now working with large hotels and resorts. Commercial real estate is a big one. And then all different types of businesses. Specifically, we just got a big project with one of the biggest producers of prison toilets in the world. Super random. They have manufacturing facilities all across the country. We're being brought on by another production company to come and document all the spaces with FPV drones. It's kind of hard to kind of tailor say exactly who our target audience is, because it's really just anybody that has a space or an experience that they want to document, and that can be anybody. Zach can explain kind of how we do our outreach. Most of that was inbound. We're never going to target for prison toilet manufacturers. So that's where kind of the development of SEO and having a good brand and online presence is where we're going to get those kind. But we also have a very significant outreach system that is run by this guy. So he can explain that.
Tell me a little bit about this outreach system.
It really started off in the beginning almost solely on Instagram and just DMing realtors in San Diego and LA. We would go on Zillow, look at listings, above 2 million plus, just because usually those were the ones that were trying to do video content. We'd find their Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and just send them messages, comment on their posts, just try to get them to respond to us. And for realtors, it was really either they had listings and wanted to work with us, or they didn't want to work with us. So if they said yes, it was almost like in a week, we're going to work with you. Here's the shoot, details, all done. And as we've progressed, now we have that base of look at all this cool content that we've created. We were able to get a couple of hotels, a couple of commercial real estate buildings. Now we have that on our website, on our Instagram, on our Facebook. So when people search us, they'll see that. So now it gave us the ability to shift and actually start targeting anyone in the hotel industry. In particular, we try to go for general managers, marketing managers. Even I think the most random one that actually ended up converting was an events manager, which I just thought events manager, maybe they'll be involved in video marketing. And so we go on LinkedIn, just do some searches, filter those out, get their emails, get their socials, all of that stuff, and just start sending them messages. And that kind of transitioned from solely realtors that we knew were either going to be in or out into, big companies that have, hundreds of people that could be making a decision and trying to figure out which one of these people is actually going to convert and be interested, but then also have the power to even put the budget forward. we've had some issues in commercial where it's all over the place. Like some tenant reps are so into it, and some of them are like, I don't do this at all. Why are you emailing
Why
me?
would I ever want to shoot a building?
Yeah. It's almost like a game, kind of putting data together, figuring out, okay, what works, what doesn't, who is worth targeting, who isn't. And up until really November, December, it was all us going out, all outbound prospecting. And so we started we just did some keyword ads on Google. And I think that's how we got the production company for the Google shoot that we did, that we were under a video company there. I think for Honda, the Rose Bowl parade was also another video company that searched Google for someone that flew FPV drones. They found us because of our ads or SEO. They see the content that we have on our website that we built out, and they see that we're high quality, and then that gets us work. And it's kind of, we've built out so much stuff to the point where we have such a great brand that we can really just, hey, do you want an example? Oh, well, we have these examples for all these industries. This is, why we're going to make your listing, your hotel, whatever it is, just pop that much more, get that much more engagement. There's just so much that we've learned and we continue to learn throughout that whole process. And I think that's the best way for us to continue going.
Yeah, I think that's been kind of one of the fun from the topic of resiliency is the transition that we've seen from, so at the start it was just, me on my phone on Instagram DMing realtors. Our first shoot actually came from a realtor that I messaged 17 times before she even responded.
17.
I can show you she loves the story, so I can say it.
Yeah.
17 times, and she was reading every single time. I could see red. It's fine. She hasn't blocked me yet. I'm going to send another. And we didn't have any, no case studies. No, we had an example from my friend's house. Our first shoot was in Hawaii, shooting Justin Bieber's vacation home. But after that, it's when we wanted to get local work. Yeah, it was messaged her 17 times, and then she finally was like, "Fine, like we'll work with you on when we get a listing." And so she finally got a listing, and I think it was another 5 times. It was like, hey, can I come? I just want to stop by and meet you. We don't to shoot it. Drove up to Malibu, met the two of them, and then we ended up shooting the house, and they were our first client in LA. Resiliency was at the beginning, being able to just constantly, reach out to people that have really no reason to work with us. We were brand new. It was really just myself and a drone pilot. Now the second phase of the business is, that no longer works. Just, blasting people's inboxes. It's like we have to actually come up with a sales process and have, demo, like actually have a call. A lot of times it's easy for realtors to just, we never even talk to them until the shoot, where it's like in face to face. It's just like, oh, hey, cool, show up at this time. Here's the invoice, whatever. But now it's like taking them throughout a sales process from, just being interested to closing. And that's definitely a lot harder, but a lot more rewarding. So we're in that phase of learning the most efficient sales process rather than just blasting people's inboxes, which does work for residential realtors. Anybody that is trying to get into this business, maybe they won't all be okay with getting messaged 17 times, but Holly Hatch, thank you for allowing that. But it definitely did help having the Hawaii shoot. That helped me convince her once she was finally interested.
So with all these different moving pieces that you guys have going on, how do you maintain your guys' composure, delegate, and remain, free of the overwhelmed experience that most business owners are feeling? And even more so as a creator, how do you remain free of that overwhelmed feeling? Like, where do you guys find that balance?
The two of us kind of came to an agreement. It's a lot of the reason why I decided to take this on full time. I kind of have that ability to really organize things and stay on tasks. I really like tasks lists, or, separating things and putting timelines on stuff that sometimes would get, it's not that important. We'll just, save that for later. So I think it was probably around the time that I moved in September downtown, we decided every week Jack and I were going to have a meeting no matter what was going on with the business or our lives. If I was there, we'd go to the office, do it. If not, we'd do it on Zoom. And we would structure the meetings the same way every time. We'd, go over, okay, what went well in the past week? Like, what did we accomplish? Because that was something that we both realized. We were so focused on pushing forward and growing that we weren't ever taking that step and realizing, like, whoa, look at what we just did. Like, this is something great that we're building. We need to, at least for our own well-being, kind of acknowledge that and take credit for what we've done. So that's how we start the meetings. And then we kind of progress into, okay, where are we going? What is the 3 or 4 main things that each of us is going to do this week? And So that's how we set those. Okay, so now we're both able to hold each other accountable rather than, oh, I'm just going to go do this and not tell Jack about it. But when we're both keeping each other accountable, it's like, I don't want to let them down. I don't want to let anybody else in the company down or the clients down. We use some softwares that help give reminders, sending some Slack messages when things need to get done, and trying to take small tedious tasks and systemize them and automate any way that we can, just to make it so it's less busy work and we can feel like what we're actually doing is useful and is going to push the business in the right direction. Yeah, that's at least my view on how we've kind of been able to delegate, keep the business in line, and not let it just completely overwhelm us with everything.
Yeah, I think that the biggest hurdle, at least for me at the start, was that ability to give up control. It's very easy for me when somebody doesn't know how to do something I'm trying to do, for me to just say, oh, screw it, like, let me do it. It's going to take 10 minutes. Yeah, well, or take an hour to train that person to do that 10-minute task, and then you have to do it again. So learning how to do that to people that are better at whatever the task at hand is than me. So like Zach is better than me at a lot of things, and he does them really well. What I think works so well, at least between the two of us, is our kind of how different we are in the way that we think. Zach is very analytical, organizational. He, studied engineering, whereas, I'm a photographer. I'm creative. My head's kind of in a million places at once, whereas Zach's like the focused guy. And I think that having that balance, I took in one of my classes in college, we learned about like the need for organizations to have both the visionary and the integrator. It's that, not in a political sense, but there's the very liberal person, the very conservative person, the one that has all the ideas, that drives the vision, basically knows where the company's going to go, but is very scatterbrained, has a million things going on, doesn't know how to kind of center and focus. And then that integrator does that job, where they're the ones that are like, okay, cool, we're going to do that. This is how we're going to do it. And so once I was able to learn, one, delegate the stuff that I did to him that Zach does, and then now that the team's growing, doing that further and further with each new individual person has led to me now having, when I want it, time to be able to just do whatever I want. If I want to go surfing, I can go do it. Where I used to, if it's 5 p.m. and even if I didn't have anything I had to do that day, I'd just go find some busy work to do to feel like I was being productive. Now that we have a good system going, everything that we need to do is usually getting done. We're not really that behind on deadlines or anything. So everything's getting done. So being able to just step back and say, oh, I'm going to chill tonight. I'm going to go, hang out with friends. I'm going to go surf. I'm going to go play the guitar, whatever it is. I have that ability to be able to do that and not worry, which I guess I found that mindset like from all of the self-development stuff we talked about, but being able to just be like, yeah, you can chill for the night. You guys got a lot of stuff done today. That all stemmed from being able to give up that control and not feel like I have to be doing a million things all at once, get to this lifestyle that I'm dreaming about. No, live it right now. Realize, like Zach said, I think it's a big thing to step back and celebrate like every little thing that we're doing. There's so many times like we went and do all these amazing shoots, and like if 10 happen in a week, it's like, oh, you on to the next thing. The next week comes, and you never really like give yourself a pat on the back or say congratulations to our team members and say like, look, that was really good. Good job. You got this client, you sent this message. That was great. And so I think that being able to do that that's a big goal of mine, is to celebrate a lot more, just enjoy the process more rather than just getting to the next thing.
I think with the concept of the visionary and the integrator, it's like a really powerful way to kind of segregate the two main components of a successful creative business. What is it that you would, both of you, what would you say, Jack? And then I'll hear you too, Zach. What is it that if you could spend 100% of your active time in the business doing would drive the most results for Epic Drone Tours? What would that be? Or even if it's like, as of right now, what have you found the most success? With you spending your time doing one single thing, where would you find the most success? And then I want to hear from the integrator side. How can you look at that from the integrator side and say, as an integrator, if I spent 100% of my time doing this in Epic Drone Tours, we're going to always find success.
Yeah. I think that in terms of my time and what's best spent, I think it's when I'm working with my team. So when if I have a meeting with Zach and we're talking about, what we're going to get done this week, like there's individual tasks, but I think I'm good at knowing like the higher level stuff of like, oh, in the next quarter, we have to get into this next industry. We have to get this type of client. So, or if I'm working with like one of our videographers, we're talking back and forth about new techniques that we can do on shoots that look great. We can talk about new drones and equipment that we can get to make us better, which we're actually doing now. We're getting some heavy lift drones, which is going to be really fun. Or whether it's with my editor of, talking back and forth with him, like I do every single night about, hey, if you did this edit a little bit more this way, it's like kind of just being the companion to everybody on our team and bouncing off various different topics and ideas with them. That's one. Two, I think I'm very good to be kind of the face of Epic Drone Tours to a lot of our higher level clients. So, a lot of people will typically delegate the like communication completely out to where, you're never talking to clients, but I genuinely enjoy talking to the people that we work with, being able to, and I think especially at the early stages now, being the guy that's talking to them, it gives me a better understanding of what they want, which I can then take back to our team to help tailor our product to get even more clients like this person. So if it's, if it's a general manager of a big resort, I love being able to talk to him, go, play around golf, go get a drink with them, have a phone call, whatever it is. Just building that relationship, one, gets them to trust us more. But it also, I'm learning like, what do these people want? I'm getting in their head of figuring out the next thing that I can bring to our team to then implement. So I think they go kind of hand in hand, is figuring out what we are going to be offering to the marketplace. Like, I think that the drive towards all of the new bigger industries like hotels and commercial real estate, coming up with that and realizing that was the next stage for Epic Drone Tours was a big deal. And then the client part of it is then, being in communication with enough of this target audience to be able to learn what the best version of Epic Drone Tours, of what a drone tour is, to be able to offer to these people. So that's kind of a cycle that I think is where my time is best spent.
Zach, as an integrator, keeping it all together operationally, where is your time best spent with Epic Drone Tours?
For me, it's taking the vision that Jack has and
actually doing something about it.
Figuring out what we need to do, kind of smaller picture, to actually reach the bigger picture. Because a lot of the times you can have these big visionary goals, ambitions for the company, and it's all great to have them, but if you don't set a plan to actually make progress towards that goal, it's a lot harder to get there. I like to think that I'm able to make tasks or workflows and things that make it so we're going to make that happen in this timeline, and really go into the details of how to get that done and kind of set up all of the systems that we are using to make it so that, we're progressing, we're building, and when it's time to start hiring more people, that's going to be a quicker process. So for me right now, I think there's two things that are the most important for me to be doing. It's figuring out the systems, figuring out how to make everything integrate in the most efficient way possible, and then also documenting everything that I'm doing and all the various pieces of the company that I'm currently involved with. There are other people eventually that will be better suited to do that, but setting up those processes, having it written down and documented in a way that it'll be quicker and easier and more efficient to then hire somebody so they can just hit the ground going, kind of, building the team in a quicker way. And so balancing between figuring out, okay, how do we get to the next step? And then also documenting along the way how we did that and keeping track of all the progress are kind of the more integrator roles that I see for myself.
It's kind of similar to swimming. At least, you can have these big lofty goals and dreams for yourself as an athlete. There's almost part of me that wishes I had a Zach in my head that, no, just like stop thinking about that and worry about like pushing off the wall and having a streamline instead of envisioning yourself winning a gold medal. It's like you kind of need to have both sides of that. You need to have the goals and the vision, but you also need to actually be able to break that down into like, oh, this is how we're going to do that step by step rather than getting lost thinking about the high level stuff. I think it works really well together so far. I think it will continue to do that.
Yeah, it sounds like it's working together. You guys live together too, which is kind of crazy. What's that like? Like, what's the work life, balance, living dynamic between you two? Because I've lived with people I worked with in the past, and it worked with some people. I think when there's that like proper balance, like when people understand their role and understand the kind of like what contribution they bring to the table, it always works out. But then when there's that like murky, vision.
Well, we kind of got thrown into living together. I'd always thought eventually we would, but kind of happened all at once.
I was there when you guys made the decision.
You were there.
I was there. Or you were like, he's going to move in, right? Isaiah was leaving.
Yeah, our friend was having a kid, and so he had to move out, and we needed a third person, and Zach was the next man up. First, it started, our ability to live and work well together, I think started from us being really good friends for several years before ever going into business or living together. So we have this foundation of being able to have this time together, like hanging out and not thinking about work or doing things that we both enjoy. And, it has not been perfect. We have had our back and forth arguments, whatever you want to call it, frustration, so much so that a couple months ago, like actually led up into, like, we could both tell, like, we were getting on each other's nerves a little bit. You could just tell something was brewing. One day I was just like, no, we're going to go upstairs. We're just going to go talk. And then for like 2 hours, we just established this new communication style. We just talked everything out, went through all these different scenarios, and basically we're like, yeah, if this is going to work, we have to do X, Y, and Z, and we have to be open with each other. And I think that helped a lot. Is now at least we're trying to, be very open with each other. If something one of us does is like frustrating, to make sure that we, don't let that sit and be able to bring it up and have those hard conversations, which a lot of people don't know how to do these days. So I think that helps. And then, just being able to kind of turn the work brain off and be able to talk about, football, surfing, whatever it is, swimming. Yeah. So being able to have those two different lives, I guess, like Jack and Zach business owners, Jack and Zach friends. I love that our names are so easy to rhyme. And I have a cat and he has a dog, and they get along well. So that helps.
It's all because of the cat and dog.
They keep you together.
Gina and Hines.
No, I think Jack touched on it a bit, but we didn't really have a plan in the beginning, and we just like, oh yeah, we'll do this, it'll work out. And it did for a while, but then there's all those subtleties that you have when you have the friend relationship, but you also have to have a work relationship. And there's some things that, jokes and stuff you would make, or comments that you would make as a friend, that when you're like in that mentality of being at work, it's like, whoa, no, you can't say that. But then also,
I can think of a few.
Yeah. But then also kind of going off what Jack said about, you do need to be honest with each other as friends, but then even more so as business partners. You can't let, little small things just go unsaid when something is going wrong, or not even wrong, but if it rubs you the wrong way, you have to feel safe enough, but also just be able to address it then and there. The only real issues that we had were, just small things in the way that we would react to something that was said, or we never got into a fight or an argument, which is why it seems like, it was always perfect, completely smooth sailing, which for the most part it was. But then we kind of got to the point where, we weren't super defined in what our roles were. We were kind of like just bouncing around, doing some stuff, doing this stuff. And this kind of how we got to the point where we were able to talk about what we did earlier about how are we so organized. And it's kind of because we had this, not even an issue, but we just had stuff boil up to the point where it's like, okay, this is going to burst if we don't do something about it. But, luckily we did do something about it before it burst, and we were able to sit and talk it out and really, okay, this is my role. This is Jack's role. This is how it's going to work together. And that's when we really kind of got the whole workflow of the two of us in sync and aligned with each other. I think that was super important for not only our friendship and relationship as working partners, but also just like our well-being and the business. We were not in shambles by any means, but we weren't, flowing. The business was kind of working because of repeat clients. We weren't getting a whole lot of new, innovating anything. But then as soon as we were in a line with each other, it was like, oh, here we go. And it's just like exploded since then. Really just being able to have, okay, we're in work time, we're in friend time. And once we hit that time, okay, we're going to go to the gym. Okay, work brain off. We're friends now. And just, it's not that we aren't friends while we're working. We have to have that distinguish.
It's friend time.
Yeah, you can't just, it's with us living together, there can't just be friends all the time. You can't just be working and then say something and it's just like, whoa, what? We're working right now. and staying focused.
He loves when I just say random things while he's trying to work, and then it's like, Jack, focus. Like, yeah, but dude, look what just happened. No, that's helped a lot. The universe works in weird ways, man.
Yeah, it does.
It's weird. Like right after this conversation that we're talking about that we had with each other, where the two of us, we reestablished like the company values, our personal values, our roles, what we were doing together. And after that, it's weird. Like just since then, everything's kind of flowed, and we've, everything's been going great. We've had new deals coming in, great projects. Everyone's happy, doing great. But half of those things that are going great have nothing to do with that conversation. It's just like, it's the universe like sending us the message that like, yeah, no, once you're in line, once you're in flow, and working well together, just everything falls into place. It's weird. And I'm not going to deny it. It's the universe.
There's definitely something to be said.
Like you said earlier, a lot of what we get comes from things we did, 3, 4, 10, 12 months ago. And sometimes it all just stars align.
Absolutely. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Seems like things are going really well and that there's a ton of momentum. So, 2023 is right here. I don't want to put a timestamp on this show or episode or whatever we're going to call it, but it's going to be crazy to look forward, 12 months from now.
Get back in this van and
get back into the van. I got the candy. I'll lure you in, get you into the van, and we'll talk about, what's happened since then. So where can people find you guys? Like if, someone was to look you up or, be interested in working with you guys, Epic Drone Tours, where would the best place be?
Hello at epicdronetours.com. At
Epic Drone Tours on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok. I think that's all. Yeah.
Google.
Google, yeah.
Our website is fire.
Our website's pretty fire. That helps us, part of the branding. You can find me at Jack Spitser on Instagram.
Or Zack Reuter.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll put a little graphic on it. We're looking for more
what kind of
great
content?
Pilots and videographers.
What kind of content can people expect from you guys in 2023? What are you guys looking to put out?
Epic content.
See that name? Epic Drone Tours. Everything we do is epic. Or we try to, at least. Can't say that every single thing is truly epic, but that's what we strive to accomplish and do. And hopefully you guys agree by following our content. And it's only going to get better.
Zach, you got drug into this situation, like a year ago?
Fully like about a year ago. Mm-hmm. Coming up probably, I think I started in June of 21.
Okay. And how did you get involved? Like, where did you...
That was when you started.
Yeah, April of 22. I guess I started just following, obviously being close with Jack and just seeing what he was doing, liking it, and just giving feedback here and there. And then he like...
vent to him.
Yeah, he would complain about messaging and like all the hard stuff that he didn't want to do. And I was like, at this point, I was like pretty much done with doing engineering. I was like over that and knew I wasn't going to be doing that. Looking for work and didn't want to do an internship for engineering that summer. And so we just kind of decided, I'll just start helping out here and there. That's when I started doing the Instagram messaging. Yeah, just as time went on and we started learning more, I just moved into more and more. And then when I finished school, in March of 22, I decided to do like full time. And that's when I really started taking over more project management stuff, organizing the CRM and all of the outreach.
And you guys met on the swim team, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
At UCSD.
I hosted him on a recruit trip. I was 1 year older. And so he stayed in like my dorm for a couple of days during the trip. Swear to God, did not say a word the entire 3 days that he was like visiting our school. It's like, this kid hated it here. He's never coming back. And then he committed to the school and came, and
yeah, it's a small world. I mean, you and I were on the same swim team, right?
Yep.
And I never knew that you knew Jack, and then the swim world always like brings everyone together. The swim world also like poses all these opportunities in all these different ways, right? You probably saw that with Jack. Is that kind of how you saw him taking off in this like content world with the photo and all the video he was doing with Speedo and Swim? Or where did you see him doing the content first?
Oh yeah, it definitely started with Swim. I mean, Mike Lewis was kind of the forefront of swim photography, and then all of a sudden he was coming to our practices because of our swim coach at the time. And then flash forward to the next summer, and Jack's like working as his right-hand man. Flash forward another summer, Jack's taken his job. Flash forward another summer, Jack's at the Olympics shooting for Swim. And yeah, Jack was already into like photography and shooting in the creative space, but for him, a lot of these things, just a little opportunity turned into something big. And so when something small, like just helping out with messaging, kind of landed on my lap, it was kind of like, maybe this is the opportunity, and just go with it and follow and see what happens with it.
It's kind of crazy how things just fall into your lap like that, especially in the swim world. If we're to rewind, I think like 4 years from today, you started your career as a photographer from the swim community, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you ended up, getting your first camera and getting into the swim photography world?
Yeah, well, a lot more than 4 years ago.
Dude, come on.
That's fine. Yeah, you can try to guess. It's fine. No. I'm old, man. We're old now. I think like freshman, sophomore year of high school, first like role I had in videography and photography was like for my swim team in high school. I had made like our little slideshow at the end of the year for the banquet. Then, each year I made sure that got better and better. And then my senior year, went and shot Olympic trials that my sister was swimming at in 2016. I just rented a camera in Omaha, Nebraska at trials, and then took photos of Michael Phelps from the stands with a super long lens that I rented and had never used before. Some people were like, "That was pretty damn good. You should like do that." So then I went and set up a booth at a local swim meet. Had just one of my friends come and be, manage the booth. I guess you can call it like secretary, whatever you want to call it. But I printed out a bunch of photos I took from trials. Had a little, pamphlet of prices and things, and parents would pay for their kids to get photos of their kids. And that was like my first business experience. And so I did that for 2 years, the first 2 years of college, right after high school. And I think that like that taught me more about customer service and business than anything else that even I've done to this day. It taught me a lot about dealing with very particular people. Parents of kids are very picky. And so that taught a lot. And that's how I kind of got into the swimming photography world. And then Mike, who Zach was talking about, I had, similar to Epic Drone Tours, I spammed him on Instagram many, many times and finally got a response and assisted him, and then was able to go work for SwimSwam. And it's just one thing led to another. It was mostly because like that relationship was from a relationship I cultivated with my coach, who was friends with the photographer. And so I got in with him through David. So it was really like a relationship management, being at the right place at the right time.
I've heard a story about you giving swim lessons to some wealthy family on the East Coast, and they kind of seeded you in this photography journey. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I was helping out at a swim camp that my coaches were running over the summer. I was there to help out. Not many other swimmers were there. And so I became friends with a couple of the kids' moms that were there. Didn't really think much of it, and then ended up befriending them and actually went out to New York to coach their kid for another week. The last day, I took photos of him on the current camera that I had in their pool in their backyard, and they loved him and basically had said, like, you have a calling for this, you need to do this full time. Like, they just made that statement, and I basically was like, that would be great. Like, I need a new camera, and they were really generous and willing to invest in me, and so they bought me the camera that I've shot on for the last 5 years, and that helped. That's right when my photography career kind of took off. So I'm very grateful for them. That was a cool experience, one that I'll never forget.
Do you keep in contact with that family?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually just emailed them a couple days ago, and we were talking back and forth and trying to make a plan to get back out there to see them. But hadn't seen them in a while because of COVID and everything.
It seems like the swim world has almost kind of like seeded your entire business venture, right? You have your origin story, then you have your team and probably clients that you come from it as well.
Yeah, I mean, one of our clients for Epic Drone Tours was Speedo, who I had worked with in photography for years. So we did a shoot with an Olympic swimmer, Caleb Dressel, like the fastest guy on the planet. We did a drone shoot with him while I was there shooting. And so it was like both my worlds combining, which was awesome.
Have you been a part of that too, Zach?
I mean, a little bit. We did the first shoot for swimming we did of the UCSD team. And that was kind of a demo that we were able to show. Speedo kind of saw that video and already had Jack in a contact for photos. And they're like, wait, you can do this? So then they brought Jack and the pilot out and did that kind of a thing just with Caleb, which was really neat to see. That
was like all of my worlds really combining was college, swimming. And then, like you said, we used that to then pitch it to Speedo, and it's all full circle.
Yeah, it sounds like persistence is kind of like the root of your guys' success when it comes to like seeing an opportunity and really like pitching for it, or in your guys' case, like maybe cold DMing or doing mass outreach. Are there any other stories that you've kind of like, harnessed in your guys' pursuit of building EDT where you've really, demonstrated that persistence, whether it be like trying to get a client. I know I've heard about the Grant Cardone story. I've heard about the Alicia Keys story. I've heard about the San Diego Padres Stadium story. So like, what else is there? And what would you say to that?
I mean, nothing specific, but it's cool now at this point to see, because there are so many shoots and people that are talking to us now that are people that I reached out to, now over almost 2 years ago. And then, specifically there was a realtor out in Palm Springs that had a crazy house like a year and a half ago that was for sale. And I was just blasting her with emails like, let us do this for free. We'd love to come shoot it. And, it just never really worked out with her. And I just kept bombarding her with emails over time, just like following up every month. Like, oh, this is a cool shoot we did, would love to shoot with you, whatever. She, never got a response for a year and a half. And just a couple weeks ago, she booked like 2 very big projects with us out of nowhere, and just seeing things like that is pretty cool. But yeah, that's kind of a theme of my life is just, 1, I love communicating with people, and 2, I don't really have like a filter in terms of like, I'll continue working with somebody even if they're not like interested right away. Like, it's more about that. I like building a relationship and getting to know somebody first, and if that eventually leads to a client and them working with us, that's great. But it's not like, oh, I missed you once, you said no, and then that's it. It's like more than that.
How about with you, with your time with EDT? What are some things where you've had to, deal with that consistency, being persistent regardless of the results you might have been seeing?
The same thing kind of goes for me with messaging. At first it was manual on Instagram and just setting reminders on my phone, or kind of just every 3 days send a follow-up message to these people. That got so tedious that we realized we need to make this systemized. So to kind of eliminate that, every single person needs to be followed up manually. We have automation. So for me, it was setting up automations to do the follow-up for us. So we could set timers, and if they don't respond, we'll send certain follow-ups, and that really streamlined it. And it's also pretty rewarding when you have someone that you put in the automation, and then they get sent an email, then a week later, another email, no response. But then we have the last one coming 40 days later, and they finally respond, or they finally book. And that just makes all of that stuff that we set up worth it when you get someone to finally come through, no matter how long it takes.
It's kind of like swimming, right?
Mm-hmm.
You put all that work in, and then all of a sudden you have like that one taper, and everything goes well.
It's all worth it. Yeah.
Yeah. What are some of the biggest things that you guys have, learned working together? We talked in a previous episode about, there's the visionary, and then there's also the integrator. When it comes to working together and being persistent, like, how do you guys balance your guys' individual roles, but also like stay persistent without like crossing each other?
Kind of what I touched on. It's Jack's going to be persistent. Once he has his sights set on something, he's pretty much not going to let up. The most recent one is with the Padres, and we were in contact with somebody. They no longer work there anymore, and Jack just didn't take that as an answer, just finding emails even if they don't exist. He just tried an email with the I think the CEO of the Padres.
To give context, so when we originally had the plan to do a tour through Petco, so Zach and I bought season tickets this past year, and when you get season tickets for the Padres, you get taken on a tour by like a sales rep in the Padres.
What they try to sell you?
I talked to him. They tried to sell us season tickets, and all I was talking to the guy about was, oh, hey, I have this idea. Like, how sick would it be to like fly its drone through here? And this kid's like, it's great, man, cool, but I have no say in this. And I was like, it's fine. Like, but I was like, I'm gonna send you an email. Just have it in your inbox. And so I sent him an email with an example that the Red Sox did, not with us, with another company, but I sent to him. Obviously he's not gonna have any say in the marketing. And then it's probably like 7 or 8 months later, got an email from the head of video marketing, a video for the Padres. It was like, oh, we wanted to do this drone tour, and like had this email pushed up from some department and that you guys like do this. So we had this whole plan. We talked budget, like it was all planned out for the off season, which is now. Once the season was over, tried to reach out to the guy, and turns out he doesn't work for the Padres anymore. I remember the guy had said it was the CEO's idea, and he's the one that then asked around, talked to the new guy. So I was like, okay, so I got to get a hold of him. First, I spent 2 weeks and each day tweeted at the CEO. It was just like, hey, we do this. You had this idea for this drone tour, and we would love to work with you. Here's my email. He obviously probably doesn't see it on Twitter. I'm just some random dude. And so I tested out a couple different emails. Like, what would his email be? It's his first letter of his first name, then last name @padres.com. Got a response the next day that he's like pushed it to the marketing department.
That's really
I don't
cool.
know if that's advice, but it's usually pretty. You can figure out someone's email good enough. Just throw it in an email verifier first and see if it works.
Are there any other stories like that you feel like you want to share, or you figured out how to get in front of the right person? You got to get to the decision maker, man. That's what it's all about.
I mean, it's not an example of my role in like that type of behavior. I didn't ever got anything from it other than just like confidence, I guess. But we did some, well, actually, this was before Epic Drone Tours. After COVID, I was doing some video work with somebody that lived in a very nice location in San Diego. And so I was going there every day, and I knew that Alicia Keys lived across the street. I first started by actually like mailing them a couple letters just with like my info. It's like, hey, if you guys ever need any like photo or video work, like let me know, big fans. I followed them on Instagram. Like, they're a cool family. But obviously they get a lot of mail. And the one day I was driving to my car, or walking to my car from the house, and I saw her out there getting mail, and her kids were like running around the street. And I was just blinders on. I was like, oh God, I gotta go talk to her. So I went up and introduced myself, like through the fence. I was like, hey, I'm a big fan. Like, I'm a photographer. Like, it's great to meet you. And she was totally cool. She was like, oh, hey, what's your name? Like, asked my name, even asked me to spell it, which is like obviously just being nice. But yeah, so Alicia Keys has my business card, and definitely threw it in the trash right away. But it was a cool experience for me. Like, the courage for me to be able to do that, it was a big confidence booster, and that I took over into business. But yeah, no, she never called. Clearly.
As a leader, do you feel like you have to take those steps that like you just like disregard all the fear that comes, with taking those steps and just do it? Or how do you internalize that?
I mean, that's not the reason that I do. I think it helps, but I think that's one thing that has helped me as like a leader or a business owner, is the fact that I do that. And like, a big part of entrepreneurship is risk taking. I don't know. You can like, if you ask anybody in my family, it's like the guy that would go up and talk to anybody. Like, even as like a little kid, I'd just go up and like hold a random mom's hand, and she like, that's Jack. Like, I've just never had a fear of interaction, no matter who it is. Actually, I talked to Bill Clinton when he was president when I was 5 in Vegas. Like, my mom and I were walking through Caesar's Palace, and he was, up there with Secret Service, had a crowd, and I like ran up and shook his hand, and my mom was like, she didn't have to tell me to do that, and I didn't even know who he was. I just knew he had a group of security, so obviously he was cool.
Yeah. What like for some, young entrepreneur, more so a creator who has to take those risks, especially in like a really competitive market, what advice would you give to a creator who, knows that they have to take those risks? I think we can all sit here and agree. We know we have to take those risks to like get to the next level, right? We have to disregard the fear. What advice or what actionable steps could you give to those people so that they will, have somewhat of a game plan to do that?
Yeah. The biggest thing I always try to tell people is like, if you want something, you have to ask for it. To make that into tangible steps, it's like, figure out, if as a creator, figure out what you want to be working on. Like, what is your dream vision? Who are you working with? What kind of projects are you doing? Is it TV? Are you doing commercials? Are you doing, whatever it is, figure it out, and then make a list of, your top 20 people that you, whether it's follow on Instagram, like in social media, DMing is definitely underrated. Like, people think, oh, they have 1 million followers, nobody's gonna open their message. Yeah, they do. They all do. If you do it right, do it good enough, message them a few times, go comment on a post, say, hey, I sent you a message, give a reason why, make them want to open it, figure out who that like target you want to work with is, and then, spend whatever, 2, 3, 4 months every single day, go send them a message, go talk to them. And then I promise you, 1 out of those 20 people, after 2 months, someone's going to have opened it. And if your message was good enough and you got their attention, they'll reply. Maybe they'll even give some advice. They might say like, no, I'm not interested, but at least you're going to learn something from it. So I guess that's my advice for that.
That's how you started Epic Drone Tours, right? Like, that was kind of like the base of your business development strategy.
Just blasting realtors with emails.
Yeah.
Our first shoot was in Hawaii, shooting 3 different multi-million-dollar homes. And that was just from taking one that we shot at my friend's house and sending it to realtors. I don't even think I purposely meant to send some to Hawaii. I was just going through like Instagram, like suggested, you'll follow one and then I'll suggest 3 more. She kept going through that for hours and hours. And one was in Hawaii, and she was interested and flew us out.
Yeah, that's pretty cool how you can like just build a business like that. Business development strategy 101, right? Well,
like you said, I think people don't know that.
Yeah.
Which is weird to think, like, but people think, you need to have this huge client database and CRM set up and, pay all these people and sales reps. And no, you can do it all from your phone. it's wild what you can do with the thing in your pocket if you just do the simple work.
As you guys started to scale with that method, how did you, Zach, stay organized and on top of, getting to volume? We were talking earlier, I think your guys' domain got burned, right? Like one of the domains got burned.
Yeah,
finally.
So like one of the domains got burned. Obviously you guys are sending out tons of outreach, right?
Yeah.
How do you stay on top of that? And what do you do to manage, the inbounds from that and even the outgoing, domain management? What does that look like?
Now we've got a CRM that we use. We use close.io, which really helps everything out because at first I would get their names, emails, and I would put it in a Google Sheet and it would have the date that I did all of that. And I would have to manually remember to go follow up, or like I'd make a note to follow up. Whereas now it's all a task. You can do it all in the CRM. You can, bulk enroll 100+ people at a time if you want to into an email sequence that we have, and it will automatically follow up every day or every 2 days, however we set it. We can also do it if they don't respond to an email that we send manually in 3 days, say, then remind me to follow up. Then you integrate all these other things like our website. We have a chat bot. So if somebody goes to there and they have a question, they can put that in the bot, and then that sends a Slack message to all of us that somebody is interested, sends their contact information to the CRM, puts them into ActiveCampaign, which we also have. Anyone that responds in any positive way to us automatically gets tagged. They get sent to ActiveCampaign, and they're automatically enrolled in some sort of a drip depending on where they are in our funnel. Really getting that all set up took a huge burden off both of our shoulders of not letting anything fall through the cracks, because there were so many things that when you're doing it all manually, no matter how hard you work, something will slip through, and some client that could have been doesn't happen because you didn't catch their follow-up in time. I think one of the greatest things that we've been able to do in the past probably 6 months is really systemize everything, just so that we are confident if one of us is sick or can't work for a day, it's not going to completely derail our entire outreach whole sales funnel.
What does the lead's journey look like in that funnel? Like, what's the psychology like? Like, how are you re-engaging them? What value are you providing them? Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we really base it on the industry. So we primarily have residential, hotels, and commercial. That's our main outreach. And so with residential, it's pretty simple. If they respond to any kind of outreach that we've done, or if they're inbound, maybe we'll send them an example on our example page on our website. And basically either they will want to shoot or they won't. And then at this point, we don't push them too hard because kind of for us, realtors are just extra bonuses at this point. And they'll, booking, go through our website, confirmed, all of that. It gets a little more complicated for anyone in hotels or commercial because they're dealing with bigger budgets that they're not necessarily in control of. Usually they'll respond, they'll most likely the CC, like they're whoever should be in charge of this. Like if it's the general manager, they'll add in their marketing manager, and then they'll almost always ask for an example. We'll send them an example. Then, usually it takes them a little while to respond to that. And if, it takes them more than, I think it's about 3 days right now, they get sent another page where it's, we sent you an example. Here's a couple other of our favorite hotels that we've done. And then another week later, if they haven't, it's another, here's some more of our examples, just trying to get as much of our content to their eyes so that they can kind of see what we're going to add to their company, like the value that we add. And the same thing goes for commercial. It's okay, yes, you responded to our email and you liked what we wrote, but now look at this content that we're going to create and like what we've already done. We have so much social proof at this point that we can just, look at this is what we do. It's not having to prove like, oh, we could do this. Like, no, we can. And we have done it before. And so then usually once they've seen our stuff, they're pretty interested, and they'll most likely hop on a call and chat with Jack, and he'll really go into details, get a quote for them. It's just scheduling it out, and that's pretty much how it goes.
It's cool if you look at it all on a map, on like
Sure.
a chart.
What do you guys use? Lucid charts or what?
Yeah, you got it all mapped out.
On Lucid? That's really
I
cool.
used to like poster boards, and it's so easy now, and he makes it look all nice and organized.
The engineer mind right
It's
there.
a huge like spider web of a million different flows and things. It's cool to look at.
That's really cool. Of all the traffic sources that you guys are using, like which have you guys found most effective to fill that funnel? Email?
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, at this point, email.
Outreach.io? Or what are you guys using?
Teamless.io is how we get the leads.
Is that where you get the data?
Yeah, that's where we pull. It's cool. You can go to like pretty much any website, and Like I'll send Zach, I'll find this big commercial real estate, not even big. Sometimes they're small. Let's say,
Mhm.
you know, it's just a commercial real estate brokerage website. And I'm like, hey, go pull this. And I'll send it to Zach and he'll be able to get like dozens of people's emails, where they were born.
It's ridiculous how much data that it can gather just by me clicking find on it.
It's kind of creepy. It's like
automatically we'll send it to our CRM. It'll populate all the fields how we want it. And it's just like that. We can have hundreds. I mean, we're backlogged. We have like, I think 8,000 cold leads that we haven't even started messaging yet.
Yeah, email's probably the best.
It started for realtors. I think it was Instagram.
99% of realtors from Instagram.
Yeah.
Which still we're getting shoots from people that, you know, I started messaging 2 years ago, which is cool. But the majority of our business is being built on email so far.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Which I've even heard in like the creator space these days. People are like, oh, email's dead. Cold email doesn't work. I see that all the time.
Oh, it
You're
works.
just not doing it right.
Without
Yeah,
cold
we're-
email, we would be doing not even half as much as we're doing.
Right.
It's either messaging sucks or your product sucks. One of the two.
Yeah.
If you have both good, it works.
It sounds like you guys have the messaging figured out, like the way that you're explaining how you're getting the next wave of content in front of them and showing them value and the social proof.
Which we didn't always have. Like to get the first couple of hotels was really having to personally push it, and Jack doing his typical persistence and getting that, and you know, not necessarily getting paid very much for the first couple of hotels, but then once you have the content, you can justify, yeah, well, this is worth, you know, this much because we're going to value add. Look at all the people that this is going to drive to book your event spaces, your entire restaurant, everything. And this is, you know, it's not just words, it's you can visually see it, and it's different from typical photos that you would see just on a website.
As far as the messaging goes, here's like a tip that I have learned. You always want to make the person say no. Like everyone's always triggered with like, you know, you've ever got a sales call, like you want to make them kind of role reverse a little bit. So instead of saying, you know, can I send you an example? Like they're going to be like, no, like bye, you're done. If you reverse that and say, would you mind if I sent you an example? And then you're like, no, I wouldn't mind. Like it's just, it's a pattern interrupt. And it's very easy for somebody, especially somebody who's just wants to look at some content, to just say like, no, I wouldn't mind, send it over. And so it's kind of what the whole basis of, as far as the copy goes, what all of our messaging has is like, all we want is for them to agree first, or not agree because they're saying no to seeing an example. You know, most people, like I get cold emails all the time. They're just like, oh, can we hop on at the end with like, let's hop on a call. I'm like, why do I want to talk to you? Like ours is so easy. All we're asking them to do is just, you know, watch a video really quick. According to our data, it works like 45% of the time. So
It's kind of providing the reason to hop on a call. You know, they've already seen the why rather than us just sending some text and being like, let's talk about it. Once we've added the value, this is why we should hop on a call. Now, if you're interested and you like it, let's hop on a call.
As far as when you're asking them that question, like, would you mind? What have you...
They love to say no.
Yeah, so
saying no is a
they
good
love
thing.
saying no. What is it that you're showing them? Like, what's the deliverable look like? The first deliverable that you're putting in front of them for EDT.
It's our best example of whatever industry they are.
So a full deliverable from a previous client, from a hotel client or residential or whichever industry.
Yeah, it used to be on Instagram when it was residential. We'd just send like a post, like, you know, if they were interested and want to see an example.
Mhm.
If people like would open it and not respond,
Yeah, you send it.
Send them anyway. Of course, it's like, oh hey, in case you wanted to see.
Here's that example you wanted to see.
Even some people that said no, I would still, because like they didn't know what they were missing. But yeah, it evolved from just sending a post to now it's in the email. It's whatever they do. It's a full like 2 or 3 minute tour, the best hotel, office, house, whatever it is. And then from there, they can then go binge watch YouTube or Instagram if they choose. I can also see who people all the time search LinkedIn. I always see like who's viewed your profile. I'll all the time see like one day after we email somebody, oh, your profile yesterday was viewed by that person, which has been a big reason to kind of beef up all of our personal like social media accounts as well, because people are always Googling and like, oh, this guy's not real. And then they figure out, oh, wait, maybe they are.
How did you even like land the gig? How'd you end up going to the Olympics?
Working for SwimSwam.
So SwimSwam sent you, or did you, have to like work that relationship, or how did you end up in Tokyo?
No, that was from, the CEO, Mel Stewart. I like would joke about it. And obviously like at SwimSwam, they're not going to have a credential. And then one day I joked about it to him and he's like, no, we have a credential. I've had one since like 2000. We just never sent anyone.
How'd they get that credential? Do you know?
They're the biggest global news site for swimming, and swimming is the most popular Olympic sport based on TV ratings, which is shocking. But it's
That
true.
is shocking.
The
I
Olympic
mean, who
cycle.
doesn't want to watch naked people in the water, right?
Naked Michael Phelps, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they had a credential, and it's super expensive. SwimSwam's not like a huge budget company, even though they get more hits than Sports Illustrated during an Olympic cycle. Also, cool fact. But so we talked it through, and it was hard because we had originally bought flights and hotel and everything for 2020, and that got canceled. And because we were trying to be smart and budget well and everything, it was pretty on the cheaper option of things. And I think like the airline went out of business, and whatever type of hostel or hostel or hotel that I was trying to stay in just ghosted us. So they didn't get a refund. And so it was actually really difficult to decide if I was going to be able to go for the rescheduled one in 2021. But luckily they were nice enough to fly me out there. And yeah, spent 2 weeks in Tokyo. There's no fans. It was way more COVID out there than it was in the US at the time. It's like everybody was afraid. The streets were empty. No people in any of the venues. So it was like just all the media and the athletes, which is like kind of this cool, intimate.
Was it intimate? I've heard the Olympic Village is pretty intimate.
They tried to, but it was COVID. People were afraid, but it's still,
So you did it 6 feet apart?
Oh, I wasn't allowed in the village.
No.
I've just heard stories. Media's not allowed to be near athletes, but
That would make sense why they didn't want media there. Yeah.
makes sense.
What was it like though? What was it like shooting there?
Oh, it was awesome.
Yeah.
A photographer's like dream for the editors. I want to say wet dream, but I didn't want to. Photographer's wet dream. No. Yeah, it's pretty much everything you can imagine. Like the venues are massive and well lit. Like I usually hate shooting indoors. Indoor venues suck because they're terrible for lighting, but it's the Olympics. Of course, they're gonna have it well lit for TV. And so it's like being outside, but you're inside. And it would have been cool without fans. So at first we were all kind of bitter, like it sucks. It should be loud and like this crazy crowd and hype and everything. But then, kind of shift the perspective after a while. Like we were one of the 40 people that can say we were at the Olympics in 2021, which is cool. I was kind of, I was the youngest person there by far. At the beginning, I definitely didn't think I like belonged. So it was kind of like, I felt kind of starstruck, I guess, because it's the Olympics for the athletes, but also the Olympics for media and photographers. So there's all these guys that I like had followed for years and looked up to that, just sitting next to me, shooting me at the same place, same angles and everything. So kind of a big, like, humbling moment, I guess, for me. Best and most exhausting 2 weeks ever. Sleeping about 2 hours a night.
Wow. Yeah, I want to dig in deeper into that experience, but I don't think we have the time today. I have a lot of questions now, but it'll last forever. So how do you feel like things are looking going into 2024? You're going to go, right?
Yeah, that's the plan.
Yeah.
To go to France.
Where can people find you guys? EDT, Zack Reuter, Jack Spitser.
At Epic Drone Tours on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, TikTok, Twitter. We even have a Twitter. Never posted on it except for to the CEO of the Padres. And then on our website, epicdronetours.com. Like we said on the other episode, it's a fire website. You should check it out. I'm at Jack Spitser, and Spitzer Photo is my photo account.
And Zack Reuter, and hello@epicdronetours.com for email.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to connecting at the end of 2023 and seeing where things go.